Hey guys, Al again. So I've done a little bit of organising. I've moved the Rolls Royce Shadow over by where the Bentley used to be. The reason I did that is because I'm planning to remove the carburetor, and I don't want it tying up my lift while it's down. As you can see, I've moved everything around. I'm using my lift right now on the S55. It's got some work to do on the suspension, and I didn't want to have this thing in the middle of the shop without the carburetor on it. But the plan for today is to take care of two things. So item number one is remove the carburetor. And I have a buddy of mine that I've known for a very long time. He rebuilds SUs. I had my MG, I had him do the SUs for it. He did a phenomenal job. So what I plan on doing is just taking this entire assembly off and then just basically going around to him and seeing if he could have a look at it, figure out why it's running so rich, and maybe help me adjust it, because I'm not really too familiar with these carbs. So the first step today is to take this off, and then the second thing I'm planning on doing is I want to take all this blue stuff off the car. So this stuff seems like it's pretty resilient. So I went down to my paint jobber and I asked him what could be used, and he suggested this stuff, which is 3M general purpose adhesive cleaner. I started working on the back already, and it seems like it does a pretty good job, but you got to use your fingernails to kind of keep scraping at it, but it comes off pretty easily. I thought about using like a green Scotch-Brite pad because it's not very abrasive, but I decided that just doing it with your fingernails is probably the easier way. Scotch-Brite probably everything, all the scratches would come out with the buff, but I thought, you know what, just do it this way and it'll be easy. So that's really the job for today. If I can get it done, I can clean my really dirty Brooklands and give it a bath, because it's just been sitting for God knows how long. Really, when it's clean, it's such a pretty car. So I'll give it a wash if I can get the chance. But right now, that's the project, and I'll let you know how I come along. Thanks. Alright guys, so it's off, and it took a little bit more work than I expected. I was under the impression it's just that one bolt from top to basically take it off, but I ended up having to do a bunch of undo a bunch of hard lines and remove a bunch of brackets to kind of get access so I can get everything out of the way. So it took a little bit more than I expected to take off. As a result, I didn't get around to doing the film, removing the film, which is easy but tedious work. But all things said and done, I mean, it's off. I've just got to remember how everything kind of goes back together, which I think I can. And then, I'll send it over to my buddy and see what he says, and hopefully he'll be able to figure these SUs out and get them running in good shape. I also gave the Brooklands a quick bath. I should really call this thing the weather machine, because I never know whether it's going to start or it isn't. It was just basically not wanting to start. It would do this thing where, I think it's the alarm module, where you crank it and you turn the ignition to full ignition, you hold it there, then it will want to start, and then it won't. It'll fire and then it won't. It would display the same symptoms as if you had two ballast resistors, and the one that was for engine run was bad, so it's fire and then it'll just basically die. But eventually I got it running. It's a really pretty car. I mean, I'm thinking it's probably the alarm module that's bad on it. I've heard a lot of people say that the batteries are made, the NiCad batteries, and they go bad, and as a result you get this kind of behavior. So I'm gonna get to it eventually and figure it out. It's just I need to figure out the Rolls Royce Shadow first, and then I'll work on this one. But it's a really pretty car. It's got, you know, really minor damage, just a small thing on the bottom, which I think can be worked out. Otherwise, the bodywork's in really good shape. The interior is in nice shape. The only thing that's a problem really is the door caps and the dash top. The leather split on the dash, which you tend to expect from a car that's lived in Texas and Florida all its life. But you know, it's a lovely car. I mean, honestly, it's one of my favorites. I really do like it, especially when it's clean like this. But let me go and get these cars in. I'll get my daily drive, my S55 out of the lift, and then I'll get these guys in, and then I'll give you an update once I have spoken to my buddy and had him had a look at the carburetors. If he wants to rebuild them, then we'll rebuild them, and then I'll start putting it all back together again. Thank you. So I stopped by my buddy's house, and we took the carburetors apart. As you can see in the pictures, the carburetors were super dirty. So we had crud everywhere, the floats were stuck, everything was stuck underneath. We took it all apart, we cleaned it up, replaced the jets and replaced the floats and the needles, and everything else should now be, was working freely and smoothly. So at this point, all I did is put everything back together again, and I took the opportunity to strip the paint off the base and off the bells and give it a good polish. So as you can see in the last couple of pictures, everything cleaned up pretty nicely, and it looks pretty presentable. And now I'm just putting everything back together again. Hey guys, this is Al again. So it's a little bit late right now, but I'm stuck at a stopping point. I can't recall which way some of these vacuum lines went. Obviously, you know, these are obvious, this is obvious, you know, these two hard ones, this one. My biggest problem is this guy over here. This is the line, you can see that over here. It's a great big long one. And it's the line that goes to that solenoid, which I guess is a weakness solenoid. And I'm trying to look at that vacuum diagram and seeing, you know, where everything goes, but it just doesn't seem to route properly, and I'm wondering whether it routes underneath the carburetor. But again, I mean, I try to kind of, you know, mock it up, and I guess it could get underneath the carburetor, but it kind of looks like it will, you know, maybe just about clear the intake, you know, the hole. So I got this line over here that doesn't quite make sense to me. And then I need to tighten up the fuel lines because they're leaking. And then I've got to figure out, I've got maybe a couple of other vacuum lines that I just can't see right now. But I think there's two more vacuum lines, and they're the ones that go out of the carburetor, and they don't seem to make sense to me either. So if you guys can give me some kind of hint as to how to route that line. I think once I get past that point, I can try to get the rest done. The steel line that goes into the I don't know what that is. I don't know whether, you know, but the piece that goes into the carburetor kind of slides onto the carburetors, which I guess feeds it fuel. Right here, this guy. You know, right, this guy, when I'm shaking. Here, this guy. It's really hard to get to from underneath. So you know, I'm always perplexed as to how complicated this car is. But there's a couple of vacuum lines that I need to just figure out where they go. But primarily this one, because every other line, there's this line over here, which I'll figure out where those other lines go if I can get to figure out how this one's routed. And if you guys can help me with that, I'd be really grateful, because it's stumping me right now. Alright guys, so I'll look forward to an update from you, and I'll probably be offline for about a week and a half until I can get back to this car, because I've got some other stuff that I need to take care of. But if you can leave some comments, let me know where I should be looking. I'd be very, very grateful. Thank you.